Uh, Good morning. So today we are going to learn in disaster management the disaster management mechanism in India. Okay. So first of all, let's understand what is disaster management. And to understand what is disaster management, we need to understand few concepts like hazard, risk, vulnerability, capacity building. These are few points that you need to understand. So, to begin the lecture, I would like to tell you that by the end of this lecture, you will be able to, contemplate that what and how disaster management mechanism work. How do various aspects and concepts of disaster management is inculcated and coordinated for a better, resilient, future. We will also study about in the various frameworks, international frameworks that is followed uh, to reduce the that is risk reduction, disaster risk reduction. Then you have more proactive actions that have been taken all over the world. All right. So let's define hazard. Hazard is a potential damaging physical event, phenomena, or a human activity which may cause the loss of life or injury, property damage, or social or economical disruption, or even environmental degradation. Vulnerability, the condition determined by the physical, social, economical, and environmental factors or processes which increase the susceptibility of the community to impact the hazard is what vulnerability is. Means whenever a vulnerability and hazard comes in contact, it rises a factor called risk. It increases the risk of damage or a or a situation that has a ability to cause disruption or loss to the people, community, or economic or environment. Okay. So the vulnerability has been defined in relation to five components. So we can have five components in vulnerability to be defined in its relations. That is, it embodies most aspects of people's exposure given to the natural hazards. So the more you are exposed to the natural hazards, taking the various aspects and the factors of your of human activities is exposed to the natural hazards, the more you will be vulnerable. Like your house, your life, your agriculture, your farmlands, or your animals. All right. Even if you are dependent on certain source of earning, which can be destroyed or which will be disrupted by the hazard, will also affect your livelihood, your earning capacity, right? And even then even the societal setup, the government policies, the legislations, or the legal policies which is the existing there to give you assistance, are some of the components which can be rising the components of vulnerability in a uh, person, area, or a community. So vulnerability has been defined in relation to five components that embodies most aspects of people's exposure. Okay. uh, like livelihood, you are your livelihood, your that means your day-to-day life, what you are doing for your earning, for making money to sustain your life, is dependent on the type of hazard you are exposed to. A coastal region people will have a different predicaments in dealing with disaster. Like they will be facing tsunami threat hazard. Tsunami hazard will be always be pertaining there. Then you have cyclones. There is a seasonal cyclones which has been upwelling. Then you have other related climate related issues which is there in the coastal areas. Similarly, in regions which is highly vulnerable or susceptible to earthquake, will also have a different predicaments to deal with their livelihood. for being their for a well-being, and to protect self protection, social protection, and governance, and how the government will work according to it. Like in an area which is highly vulnerable to earthquake compared to area which is vulnerable to cyclone, will have a different set of plans, or giving importance to that hazard more. So Odisha or West Bengal or Andhra Pradesh will give more focus to cyclone and storm surges and tsunami mitigation and activity, risk reduction activities. Whereas in areas which is like the Himalayan range, any place in Himalayas like Himachal Pradesh, Kashmir, or Punjab region, or Delhi, they will be more inclined towards dealing with earthquakes, all right, fire hazards, other geological hazards like landslides, will be they're for foremost importance to take care of. So their governance will be according to that, their building norms, their policies will be in accordance to that. Okay. Then you have, let's talk about a brief history of how disaster risk reduction activities have started. So the first, although there was a great paradigm shift in the perception of disaster management. Earlier, it was perceived that once the disaster would happen, then only the reactive action would have taken place. So once the disaster happens, people reacting for response and recovery activities. But this has shown that for a prolonged period of time, that again and again a similar actions that is happening in that area is causing a lot of damage, is causing a lot of loss in terms of monetary, in terms of finance, right? So you suppose you are investing some amount, some money, some finance into building infrastructure, and again there is a event happens like cyclone or earthquake happens, the structure falls down. Again you make that say similar facility for those infrastructure building. Again it is being affected by the another or similar disaster. So it has been seen that when you are spending so much into building a structure, and it is being again and again washed on or broken down by the similar disaster, then it had driven the requirement of building a technique, a sustainable method to have that can withstand the effect of the hazard, right? Like in cyclone prone areas you will have cyclone shelters. In earthquake prone areas you will have building norms which can withstand certain amount of or certain amount of magnitude of earthquake jolts, right? So these steps are very important to be taken care. So earlier it was not considered a priority in to be inculcated at at every level of the governance, like in government department as well as in public sectors, or even at community or local level. So the first World Conference on Natural Disaster Reduction, that was on May 20, in 1994, Oklahoma. They aimed for action for a safer world. Okay, so in this, they wanted to have a safer world. So they tried to understand what are the various hazards, whether it's natural or man-made, which are affecting the the prolonged and uh, disasters or losses. So in 2000 onwards, national international strategy for disaster reduction was provided a global has provided a global framework of action with objective of reducing human social, economic, and environmental losses. So this ISDR was introduced for reducing human losses, social losses, because whenever any any disaster strikes, it not only claims life is, of the people, but it or when once a your community or your people are under stress, it also affects the fabric of your social coherence, your social connectivity, right? Suppose those people who are, who have been affected by an extreme event, there has been seen, it has been seen that people have changed in trusting each other, in helping each other, because of the, it could be reasons that they were short of resources, and and they do not wanted to share the resources, or they had an insecure feeling or psychological effect that had affected their social fabrics, the social dependence. And once the social fabric and dependence is affected, what happens is your community will automatically be affected and falling off. So it is very important to reduce the social fabric, effect. Like any disaster, like suppose there is an earthquake or a fire accident in an area, it can trigger not only chaos, not only hysteria among the people, it can also create or urge certain antisocial mindset people to victimize the victim furthermore. Like, they can get into shops, steal the important materials from the shops, and so the shopkeeper is already agitated, or maybe already victimized because of the, maybe a fire accident, will furthermore be victimized by the losses of the material that has been stolen from his shops, right? So it is like victimizing the victims furthermore will affect your social fabrics, the social dependence, the trust among these, among each other. So that's why it is important to, reduce the effect of disaster, and that's why we are working towards a reduction of disaster. Then we have economic losses. So whenever in any disaster strike, you are you, for a quite a period of time, you might be not able to go back to your jobs, right? And hence, like what is happening in today's time, in COVID's time, although we are like taking online classes and work from home strategies, but there are companies who are cutting down their human resources which they needed at the time when things were open, when offices were open and working. So they needed human resources. Now they do not need human resources, they are working from home, so they are cutting down human resources. That means they are losing out their jobs. So this pandemic, many people have lost their jobs, their livelihood. Okay, now losing a job, losing a livelihood will affect your economy in an, on a global sense, as a national sense also. Like last lockdown, what had happened, it had initiated a large scale migration of the, you know uh, you know migrating workers, like basically the, low scale workers, the daily wage workers were migrating on a large scale from various parts of the country, right? So this has also caused many disruption in the life pattern, in the livelihood, and in every aspect, which was a big plight for the people in that region, right? So that's why it is needed to contain. So what government strategies are now, they are encouraging everybody to go and get a test. If you are getting infected, you get a test, social distancing, and work from home. But these daily wages, they could not afford to do so. That's why they had to migrate back, because even if they had to eat noon bhat, but they were having some safe haven to rely on, instead of relying on a foreign land. Then you have environmental losses. So although pandemic has helped environment to recover from the amount of pollution that we the vehicles on the roads were creating, the menace, the cacophony of the traffic jams were is far more reduced. But it is not in case with all the disasters or all the hazards like landslides. It will affect the, it will degrade the soil. It will take out the topsoil and the vegetation along it with it. Then you have Earthquakes will cause, damage to the surface, like there will be cracks, and big cracks coming up on the surfaces. Similarly, cyclones can uproot trees, again disrupt, natural resources. So this there is always an environmental loss in associated with a disaster. Right. So that has to be reduced. So due to a natural hazard and related technology, environmental phenomena were taken in consideration. So now International Decade for Natural Disaster Reduction, that is IDNDR, in 1990 to 1999 declared National Decade for Natural Disaster Reduction. So this is a decade for natural disaster reduction. It was initiated by UN General Assembly. The basic theme of this decadal framework was to build a culture of prevention. So it was to initiate the culture of prevention. Once you are prepared to prevent certain incidents from happening, it will automatically reduce the forthcoming losses, right? So it was inculcating the culture of prevention, created institutional frameworks, and introduced disaster management in as an integral component of public policy and governance. It was as a global platform. So at a global platform, it was aiming to introduce disaster management as an integral component of public policies as well as governances. Okay, so government was interested. Later, under International Strategy for Disaster Reduction, which was adopted in 2000, it was immediately the successor of IDNDR, provided a legal framework of action in order to reduce social, economic, and environmental impact of disaster, both natural and man-made. So it was aimed to build disaster resilient communities. It was basically aiming to build disaster resilient community. How do you inculcate disaster immune or resilient? Resilient means somebody who can withstand certain amount of pressure of the stress caused due to the hazard, right? So disaster resilient community. Now it is an integral task force on the disaster reduction of ISDR, formulating in a framework of action in 2001. So the second conference on disaster reduction took place on 2005. It was in Hugo. It is also called as Hugo Conference or Hugo Framework of Action. It initiated from 2005 to 2015. Its aim was to building resilient nations, community, and disaster, right? To disaster. Now, this is a framework of Hugo framework of action, where we start from the bottom, that is the cross-cutting issues, dealing with. Let me talk. Give you here. Yeah. So, Hugo framework of action is a global blueprint of disaster risk reduction effort during the next decades. The next decade, that is the either the past decades that have crossed in 2015. So its goal is to sustainably reduce the disaster loss by 2015, and in lives and in social, economic, and environmental assets of the community and countries. So there was a quite a big of step that after the Hugo conference had set up. Disaster management of India was set up in 2005. Then they have considerably worked on the various fears and the level of disasters, taking up various hazards, whether it's human or it is man-made or it's natural, taking up all the accounts of that. Till 2015, it has worked quite well. Now, and the results are showing up slowly, that at every level, taking it from panchayati raj, basically starting from community then going to Panchayati Raj or urban local body, then state district disaster management authority, then state disaster management authority, then going to the higher body, that is the National Disaster Management Authority. Okay, so we have already talked about the framework of disaster management authority in India. So this is about the international mechanism in India which is working on. So the framework offers guidelines and principles, prioritizing for actions and practical means of achieving disaster resilience for vulnerable communities. So basically, vulnerable communities and sectors are to be taken in consideration. Now there are five thematic areas, like make disaster risk reduction a priority. So it ensures that disaster risk reduction is a national and local priority with a strong institutional bias for implementation. Known the risk and taken the risk, identifies the assess and monitor the disaster risk and enhances early warning. There are five thematic areas in this. What are the five thematic areas? That is, build understanding and awareness, use knowledge, innovation, and reduce to build a culture of safety and resilience at every level. So it reduces risk and underlying the risk factors. It reduces the risk of underlying risk factors, strengthening disaster preparedness of effective response at all level. So be prepared to be ready on acting on the event of disaster. Then at the grassroots level, that is the cross-cutting issue of Hugo framework action, that is multi-hazardier approach, gender perspective and cultural diversity approach, then community and volunteer participations, capacity building, and technology transference. Okay, so again, if I go back to that image here, okay, it is talking about what? It is talking about multiple hazard approach, right? It is talking about multiple hazard approach, gender perspective and culture diversity. Then we have community and volunteer participation and capacity building technique transference. This is under the giving the prioritization of first taking in ensuring the that disaster risk reduction, that is uh, what you called uh, DRR, right? Disaster risk reduction. Sorry, it is getting enlarged. Then we have under this disaster risk reduction, you are trying to reduce the influence, the influence and of the hazard, the force and capacity of the area, and fostering the political commitment towards reducing it, and community participation in it. Then on the third prioritization is to identify, assess, and monitor disaster risk and enhance early warning system. Right, that is the second prioritization. Then we have the third prioritization is to use knowledge, innovation, and education to build a culture of safety and resilience at all levels. Then on the fourth prioritization is that it to reduce the underlying risk factors. Okay, what are the underlying risk factors? That is susceptible, sustainable ecosystem and environmental measurements has to be taken up. Disaster risk. Risk reduction strategies integrated with climate change has to be taken up, has to be adopted. Food security and resilience, disaster risk integration, leap in help in context of health sectors and safety of the victims. Then protection of the officials and public facilities, recovery schemes, and social safety network. Then you have vulnerability reduction with you know providing proper income cooperation among the victims, official financial assistance, public awareness, land use planning to build a more and build a proper building codes, norms for building and settlements and land use pattern that you are following up. Then rural development has to be planned for in context of disaster risk reduction. The strategy, then you have fifth one is to strengthen the disaster risk preparedness before for effective response of all level. So it will initiate disaster management capacity then you have policies and financial and instrumental assistance. Then it will act as a bridge and coordinates in information exchange between disaster managers and the other stakeholders and actors in it. Then you have regional approach to a disaster. So every region will have a different combinations of disasters, combinations of hazards, right? And each of will have a different approach, should have a different approach, right? It all depends on demographic, cultural, economical, and as well as the type of hazards which are there. So it's all combination of that. So every region will have a different. So like suppose you have gone to an area which is hit with disaster, and you are providing assistance of food with such type of food which they do not eat. It is you know different from their culture. So that means it will be against their helping them, or helping them to overcome the situation, right? So the strategic goal, coming up to three strategic goal, that is integrating disaster risk reduction into sustainable development and policy and planning. Then you have development and strengthening in institutional mechanism and capacity to build resilience to hazards, systematic incorporation of risk reduction approaches into the implementation of emergencies. All right. Then you have preparedness, response, and recovery programs initiated to get an outcome, a sustainable, substantial level of reduction in disaster loss and in lives and social, economic, and environmental asset of a community or the country. Okay. Now going to the cross-cutting A. So the following up of Hugo framework action, the first Asian conference on disaster reduction was held on 2005 at Beijing. That was the foundation of Hugo framework action. Then World Conference on Disaster Reduction focused on corporate sectors, various corporate sectors working in there. It was held on 2005 and 2006 at Mumbai, right? Then we have UN ISDR, that is Asia Pacific Reference Group meeting in June 2006 at Bangkok. Then you have Global Platform of Disaster Risk Reduction, which was also in Geneva, that was in 2007. So you see, every year there were some conferences for taking up, following up the whether the Hugo framework action plan is was implemented or followed up by very other nations or not. Supporting supporting the country, these things are also supporting the country efforts and program focused on ISDR system of development. All right. Now, the second Asian Pacific Ministerial Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction was on 7th November, New Delhi, organized by the Government of India. That is, disaster risk reduction is no longer a humanitarian issue but a developmental issue. So this in conference in Delhi, it was not a development. The disaster management action and risk reduction is no more a humanitarian work. It is more like earlier what was, it was a perception that all the activities that you have been taking up for reducing and giving assistance and rehabilitating the disaster victims were taken up as a humanitarian action, humanitarian issue. But lately now, if you have seen that we do not consider it anymore as an humanitarian issue but as a developmental issue, because it has been seen that it is a big hindrance in the developmental pathway. So it being a developmental issue, it was taken in that context, so that we inculcate disaster risk reduction actions and codes and, and mitigation plans for a sustainable development to help become community, state and nation to be more resilient against various disasters. Now, then third Asian ministerial conference, that is disaster risk reduction, that was between 2nd and 4th December in 2008 in Kuala Lumpur. Okay, so Kuala Lumpur, there they were worked on multi-stakeholder partnership of disaster risk reduction from national to local organized organization. So National Security Council, Prime Minister's department and government of Malaysia was participating and overseeing this conference. There are three strategic goals in Hugo framework action, that is the integration of disaster risk reduction into sustainable development policies and planning, development and strengthening of institutions, mechanism and capacity to build resilience to hazards, systematic incorporation of risk reduction approach into implementation of emergency preparedness, response or recovery programs. Then we have disaster in Asia Pacific. There is about 60% of the major, natural disasters which is happening in the Asia Pacific region. There was about 46% of the world's total recorded disaster which occurred in the region of Asia and Oceania. This is the study which was conducted between 1901 to 2000, and this is the contribution, global contribution of disaster events, right? And human impact of disaster, what are the various human, so Asia contributing almost towards 90% towards human impact of disaster. Disaster definition, by definition, now we are like on the verge of concluding it, so let's try to explain that what is disaster. So disaster meaning a catastrophe, mishap, calamity or grave occurrence in an area rising from natural to man-made cause or by accident or negligence, which results in substantial loss of life or human suffering, or damage to and destruction of a property, or damage or a destruction of an environment, and in such a nature that magnitude is as beyond the coping capacity of the community. So now we are talking about when the coping capacity of the community is beyond the amount of disaster or the hazard which has struck. So in the previous lecture also we have talked about coping capacity. How do we build coping capacity? We were talking about resilience. So by building up resilience, we will build upon the coping capacity as an individual, as a community as well. So in community, you need to have community participation. You need to have awareness programs, mock drills, trainings, so that you can improve upon whatever resources you have and how you can deal with the crisis when it comes. Okay, so during the time of crisis, the resources may be falling short. So how you handle it, how you manage it, how you assessing these requirements pre-hand the the event that happens, like when we are preparing ourselves for cyclone or earthquake or landslide, we need to have identify, first of all, identify that whether this area is facing any threat from landslide or not, or if we are facing the threat of landslides, what are the areas that are more vulnerable to landslides. So you will go into more geological thinking, that geological structures, weak structures there. Apart from that, human activities, the how much human activities intervening in that region, that will also give a hand in understanding the vulnerability of that region towards landslides. And other aspects or other elements at risk, or elements which are is contributing to vulnerability, will be human life, then properties, and suppose roads or livelihood, or even social fabric. Okay, so for this you need to have a proper collective trainings and mock drills to be conducted, so that you can deal at the time of crisis. Okay, this is a vulnerability profile of India. Uh, Now, this vulnerability profile of the country shows that about 59 of the land vulnerable to earthquakes. Okay, so if 59% of land is more prone to earthquakes, 28% of land is vulnerable to drought, 12% of land is vulnerable to flood. Then you have um, uh, 8% of land vulnerable to cyclone, and different types of man-made hazards, that is 1 billion houses damaged annually, and plus human economic and social and other losses are also happening because of man-made hazards. So it can be a forest fire which is triggered by man and human. Then it can be a building collapse or fire accidents that can lead to a loss of property and human life, also economic loss. Now, this is a disaster profile of the country from taking an account of 1990 to 2005. Now, till now, we have many more disasters that has struck here. So, like avalanches, earthquakes, floods, tsunami, cyclone, then are some of the what do you call disasters that has taken a toll in past 2 decades. Right now, first of all, we came into census with such studying and understanding since 1990, that the various earthquakes, like Uttarakashi earthquake, Chamoli earthquake in 99, and in 91 again you have Uttarakashi earthquakes. Then you have in 99 you have Odisha super cyclone. Then in 93 you have Latur earthquake. And then in December 25th, late night or early morning, you can say it, tsunami. Then you have floods, uh, uh, floods in in the Maharashtrian region, like Mumbai is almost flooded in every monsoon season. Similarly, you have Bhuj earthquake. That Bhuj earthquake is still a scar in the memory of the people, that shook the earth so hard that it made the people wake up. And that it was in the morning time, so during everybody going to schools, and attending the 26th January parade. In schools we have functions, so all this happened in such a short period, and unaware public were in caught. Building norms were neglected during that time, so it has resulted a massive loss of life and property during that time reign. Now, India economic loss due to disaster. Losses in thousands and crore is shown here. It is in rupees crores, and this is the period of losses that has been rising up. So in 1901 to 95, the loss went up to 36 crores. So 36,000, thousand hundred crores. Then you have, it risen to 54, about 50%. Then it risen to about 86, about 139% of increase of the losses. So annual loss in terms of, sorry. So annual loss in terms of impact on human, that is loss in life, that was about 4,334. Then we have people affected about 30 million, and house set, that was about 2.34 million. Then you have annual finance losses, that was about percentage of GDP, that is 12% of GDP it is lost annually due to disaster. Then you have percentage of central revenue that has been generated to and distributed to disaster management. Now, major earthquakes. Let's take an account of major earthquakes in India. This is an account of major earthquakes in our country. That is Gujarat. Earthquake, Bihar, borders. There was an earthquake, Maharashtra, then Chamoli district in Uttar Pradesh, then you have Jammu Kashmir, Jabalpur, all had a magnitude of beyond 6.5 magnitude of earthquake, and it was recorded by Indian Meteorological Department as well as US Geological Survey. Now, damage due to natural disaster in India. This is the damage: number of people, number of houses, and livelihood, and totality in fund which is lost, and the total amount which has costed these people along the year since 1985 to 2001. Now the scene and scenario is reducing, but on the other hand, the phenomena, the intensity is also increasing. Okay, so now you have annual damage due to heavy rainfall, landslides, and floods. This is an image of showing that what is an annual range of you know what you call disasters that is pertaining to landslides and floods. All right. So in 99 you have villages, a number of villages which has been affected, population being affected, crop area being affected, house damaged, life lost, cattle lost. Estimated value of loss of of the houses in crores are also given. That is it was about 0.72 crores, but by the time we came to 2001, it had risen 100 times more, to about 195.47 crores in monetary funds. So estimated value of public parties, like in crores, are has been started on since 2000, and it's still on the working framework, right? So damage due to cyclone. So what are the damages that had happened due to cyclone? Districts that had no effect will be there were about 4 districts and 12 districts which had some amount of effect in the event. Okay. Now you have damage due to cyclones in Orissa. This shows this damage due to cyclone in Orissa, and which is also showing that how much cattle is lost, human life is lost, house is damaged, and lakhs of people and cropped area was destroyed. Okay, so with this I conclude my lecture. The disaster management framework of India and as well as at international platform work in hand in aim to reduce the effect of disaster in further future. Okay, so now go to your LMS, take the quiz so that I know how to evaluate you all. Okay, all the best.